Alrighty. Let's see what we got going on here. We got a lot of people in here. I see some people flying in from the previous session. I know it's been a good day so far for Rejection Con as a whole. I mean, I've been able to jump in and out in a bunch of sessions. It's really cool to see all these chats and people here. We got Net from Sicily. Wow, that's awesome. What's the weather like in Sicily right now, Net? That's really cool. Fantastic. I bet. Is it ever not fantastic? What time of year do you get rough weather out there? Never. That's awesome. Well, I'm Jamie. I work over at Fin Security. We're a security awareness training company. We provide simulated phishing and security awareness training to managed service providers in the space. And we're really focused on redefining how MSPs and companies train their end users. We want it to be more human centric. We want it to be focused on the person. We truly do believe that us as people are the root of where a lot of security breaches happen. And we believe that if we train people better and teach them the right practices and actions that they can take online to be safer and more protected, that we can truly have an impact on security and security awareness training and just the overall safety of the companies that we all work within. So we focused on our content. So the way that our content works is we license all of our content out. We have content from 5 different providers in the cybersecurity space that gives us over 100 pieces of content um, that you can deliver to your clients. And then our phishing simulation is also simulated phishing. I mean, it's hard to say more than that, but part of our content actually ties into the state of deepfake and what John is talking about. I mean, deepfakes are really important. It's how do you train people for that? So I've got John here. He is just an expert of, as I love to how he calls himself, bad idea star. And so John, I'm super excited to hear your talk on deepfakes. It ties directly into what we do here at Fin on training people on how not to get phished online and how to not get pulled into these random things and you know fake material, fake content. So John, welcome to the stage.
Awesome. I'm here. I made it. I've never used AirMeet, so bear with me if there's any weird glitches. Can you hear me
No,
okay?
yeah, I can hear you fine. You're looking great, sounding good.
Fantastic. Let me see how to share slides here real quick. Someone point me in the right direction here. Total newbie.
No worries. It should be right down at the bottom there. With the
Oh, I
little,
see. I
yeah,
see.
you got it.
Sweet.
Yep.
All right, let's do this. Window. Oh, bear with me. Just 2 seconds. Got to make sure I share the right window.
Yeah, no worries. Doing great. Yeah, it looks like we have a good audience here today, so I'm excited to hear it myself. I'm excited for the audience to hear. I'm sure they'll have a lot of good questions. If y'all are out there and you have good questions, don't hesitate to drop it in for John, and we'll have a Q&A at the end, and we're happy to talk more about being safe online.
Awesome. Here we go. Everybody should be able to see these slides now. So here we go. Let me jump right in. This is actually a pretty long talk, so I'm going to fly through it. If I hit the timeline, just hit the buzzer and let me know we're through. I'm going to try to leave some time for Q&A at the end, but I do have a contact card at the end too. If we don't have time, you can always just email me. Real quick, just at a high level, a little bit about me, kind of a versatile technologist, married for a long time, man of faith. Got the kids here in the photo and the cool AI picture of me. But really, the highlight is I've just been doing technology for about 25 years. My main job is in finance, running an infrastructure team. Got a history of a recovering CISO, meaning I've had to manage security programs at various firms over the years. And very passionate about technology, passionate about MSPs, just helping my friends, helping the industry, providing my feedback and my knowledge. And you guys can take that for what it is and maybe provide better service for your customers. So yeah, and big Dodger fan, by the way. So if anybody here is from Chicago and you watched a game last night, that was super, super painful. Roadmap of what we're going to do, because we're going to get pretty deep. So I want to give you a high level overview of what we're doing. Basically, this is going to cover three main concepts. First of all, the history of the technology by decade to kind of condense, how we got to where we're at, because there is really many decades behind the technology that is the engine of deepfakes. Then frame the current and future threats for you, kind of give you an idea of what's we've seen out there and where I think it's going as far as the real risks that deepfake pose to our organizations, and then framing the current and future defenses. Basically, think of this talk as a how, or like, how do we get where we're at? So what? Why are we even talking about this? What are the threats? And then so what now? And that's kind of how I'm trying to guide you through this topic, which is frankly super deep, super wide. So let's jump into the how. You might think this is kind of funny that I'm bringing this up, but essentially, let's start in the '90s. Really, digitization of animation and how we do animation. It really evolved in the '90s, and you've got Toy Story was probably the first movie that I recall, which was fully animated. If you add that with motion capture technology, which has been around for many, many decades, you get really the first animated movie that was driven by motion capture, actual humans, called Sinbad. You probably never heard of it, but it's a really bad movie that, frankly, uses Toy Story animation style with actual actors and motion sensor technology. Jumping ahead into basically later in the decade, you see the Mummy came out. Same idea, just more investment in the computer technology that's creating the animation, but they took the actor, they animated the actor, and you've got this like really amazing movie with really cool full motion capture, full animated. I would call this like a deep fake of a mummy, right? That we saw in the '90s. Just again, big budget stuff, and this is when we start to see kind of realistic looking characters. If you jump ahead to early 2000s, everybody's familiar with like The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, really, and the Gollum character or Smeagol or whatever his name was. A lot of people don't realize that was motion captured. That was fully animated with computers, yet the motion and the movement of the character was controlled by an actor. And they actually won an Academy Award for this technology. Essentially, this was an animated character that we all know as being very realistic, and a lot of money was thrown into this, right? So if you just move now the next decade is the big jump now. So now you take this big dollar technology and you start to move it into mobile devices. You start to see like an iPhone comes out in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and then you get social media and you get kind of a consumerism of this technology where you see these cool filters. Yeah, it's cool. Like, okay, I got somebody barfing a rainbow, big deal. But you actually start to see these kind of face filters, which make someone look absolutely nothing like they look in real life. I use this picture as a demonstration that kind of beautification. The person on the right is no makeup. Person on the left is still no makeup with a face filter. And then you've got the silly stuff, which I bring this one up because it's that Lord of the Rings character, but now you can actually make yourself that character just with your mobile phone and a mobile app for social media, which is kind of shocking. Just in 20 years, we went from needing millions and millions of dollars to do this to now your average person can just pick up a phone and start to do face filters. Um, After 2010, now this is 2010 to 2020, obviously, but I want to focus in 2010 to 2020, where academia also started to pick up these technologies. And there's some really cool projects that came out. University of Washington had this synthesizing Obama, learning lip sync from audio. What they did here was they took a speech from Obama and they created a deepfake video of Obama giving the speech. Obviously, we have the real audio and video of the speech, but all they did was extract the audio and create a side by side of the real speech and a deepfake version of that speech. Essentially, what they're proving is, hey, if we have uh, the audio of somebody, then we can just make a video of them giving that speech. So in theory, I could just do a speech, and then someone could make a fake video of me giving that speech. Really pertinent because we'll get into this later. Deepfaking audio is becoming more and more commonplace. So again, in this project demonstrates that if you could come up with some decent audio, it's relatively trivial to then create a video of that person doing that audio, which is kind of crazy. There was another project in this decade as well called Face to Face. This is actually a different approach. Instead of taking an audio and then creating a video off of an audio, you have a real video of someone, like in these examples here. You've got Arnold Schwarzenegger on the left. You've got George Bush on the right. You have a target, which is the original video of Arnold Schwarzenegger actually himself in person in an interview, and you've got George Bush in person in an interview. The source person, so that's the target. The source is the person that's going to manipulate or puppeteer that video to move the lips in a way that wasn't originally intended. So you could have George Bush saying something that he didn't actually say, but from a real interview recording of him. So we're not generating fake video. We're actually using real video with an actor saying and moving their mouth in a way that's going to manipulate the video of the target person from the source. Super cool, super amazing. But again, these are academic efforts, big, I would say maybe big budget or maybe well funded institutions that are creating these projects to essentially prove out concepts of what we could do with the various technologies. Now in the 2020s, though, we see kind of everything come to a head and things start to be more consumer ready. And I'm going to point out a couple of really cool social media accounts. One of them is called Control Shift Face. Started releasing these videos where they take a movie scene and they overlay a different actor's face on the original character. So in this instance, they're taking Leonardo DiCaprio's kind of person or face and overlaying them on Javier Bardem's character in No Country for Old Men. And then I believe they use a voice actor to fake Leonardo DiCaprio's voice. I don't remember how this person is actually doing the deep fake of the voice, but you could watch a whole scene here that's acted as if Leonardo DiCaprio was playing the assassin from No Country for Old Men. You start to see also, like on TikTok, there was a guy that came out with a fake Tom Cruise account and was doing these really silly magic tricks in various TikTok videos that looked like Tom Cruise. So much so that I think, if I recall, there was news articles at the time suggesting that this really was Tom Cruise. It was just an actor that looks like Tom Cruise. They hired this person to come in and create this social media profile, mostly to demonstrate the capabilities of the technology to essentially deepfake Tom Cruise. You'll notice here that the actors on the left and it's Tom Cruise, or the output of the deepfake on the right. Look at how similar the two look. Obviously, it helped a lot that they brought in an impersonator of Tom Cruise who kind of has very similar features, and then they used a they used a kind of a same as what we see on social media where they have that I forget what it's called, but like a mask in real time to create the video, which is pretty cool. I think in addition to that is you start to see people using technology like Blender in social media. This is a phenomenal post from Reddit where the person basically posted to Reddit their Blender rendering of an environment, asking like, what do you think of what I did? And they said here, hey, I modeled some stuff just laying around next to my window while learning Blender. This person was in Blender for all of 9 months, posted this to Reddit. The folks in Reddit were not even sure if this was real. They were commenting, "Hey, I'm confused. Are you filming what you're going to model or what you've modeled already? Because this amateur actually was able to create such a realistic looking environment that people in the Blender subreddit were questioning the ops original intention in posting this. It obviously was real. It took them 9.5 hours to render this environment and about 1,000 frames rendered. Completely fake. If you watch the video, I provide links at the end of the talk here. You can go see it for yourself. It's phenomenal. And obviously in this space, the interest is around video games and creating realistic environments that are rendered for playing like first person shooter style games. There was this phenomenal video on YouTube where they discuss this. They break it down and talk about how it was created. And I grabbed this quote, which I found very interesting. Is they're saying, hey, as computing power increases, it's going to get to a point where we will get computer games with this level of deep detail, like indistinguishable from reality. I think that's relevant because a lot of times in deepfake, we're focused on like the face and the person, but also we need to consider that the environment that people are placed in may also be rendered. It's not just their individual persona; it's the place in which the video is actually allegedly filmed or taken in. So, moving on to the next kind of intersection of this talk is sort of the so how, like how is this being done now, how is this risk, what are the tools being used to kind of realize this risk around deep fakes, what's out there and what's being done today by kind of bad actors or people that are hobbyists in this area. I just give you a couple examples. I'm sure there's newer ones out there now even, but online deepfake makers, $4 an hour for rendering. Obviously, you do the math, that blender took 9 hours to render, but if you're just going to do run-of-the-mill facial deep fakes, like these things can take just like a few minutes to less than an hour to render something really realistic. You've got open source technologies as well that are out there. Deepface Lab, which is very well known, is a very high level tool. To the degree that someone's interested in learning it, you can create, like they say, cinema quality results with Deepface Lab. And if you think about bad actors, these are, we often refer to them as like a script kiddie, but usually they're very resourceful. Usually they're the type that will read the manuals, that will dig into technology. Something like this will not intimidate them. They will install it, tweak it, and learn it. And again, if someone can learn to use Blender in the way that I demonstrated in just 9 months, imagine what someone with bad intentions could do with an open source platform like this. For voice, there's also a product out there called Open Voice. It's currently free to use. It's open source. They have a cloud instance that you can use to generate fake voice, which is really nifty. But if you want to do really high fidelity stuff, then you have to install it locally and run it locally. It's more effective that way. But they do have a proof of concept or kind of an online version that you could use to generate fake voice. One example here, I didn't actually go through with it, but I thought about the idea of faking myself being kidnapped and sending kind of a ransom audio to my wife and via like a random WhatsApp number and just saying like, honey, I've been kidnapped. You have to like send Bitcoin to this number. And this is an attack vector that you can do with just voice. I didn't do it because I didn't want to get divorced. Like I said, 24 years married. So moving forward to the next kind of intersection of this talk, let's talk about, the so what. So what? I see the tools, John. I see that the technology's evolved. I see it's gotten to a place where like your average consumer can use it, and if someone had ill intentions, they could. But is anybody really doing this? So what? Who cares? Yada yada. So let's talk about a couple news stories that came out. You may have seen this one is the fake Zelensky surrender video. Obviously, this was caught in real time by mainstream news because it's very easy to determine if this is real by just calling Ukraine and asking the government officials, is this video being posted real? And we found out that it's not. But again, there was somebody behind the scenes that created the fake video, that took the time to create it, to create the script, to film it, to essentially generate the deepfake and then publish it out there and see what would happen. So you do see that there's political or governmental exploitation taking place. There was also, I think about a year or two ago, there was a fake voice campaign that went out for Biden, somewhere in the East Coast, and he had to come out and say this wasn't me, where they were essentially trying to persuade voters to vote for certain things in the election coming up. Not, it wasn't the presidential. I think it was one of the congressional elections, and they deepfake Biden's voice. Next story is obviously with kind of AI front ends, you can use AI to essentially generate fake IDs and sell those. And obviously, if you have fake IDs, you could do a lot of interesting stuff like gain employment as somebody that you're not. Obviously, with remote work and the digitization of work, especially knowledge workers, the hiring process is fully digitized now, and so there is cases where there are criminal networks currently selling and generating fake driver's licenses or IDs for people who might need them. I do have a story from one of my threat intelligence communities that I'm involved in because I work in finance and I'm really connected to the financial services industry. Is There was a community bank that shared recently that they had an individual open an account and a loan via their video banking channel using the identity of another person. Again, this was actual video as well and a fake ID that they held up. They think the suspect may have used an app that allowed them to choose and control an image in real time, kind of like the puppeteering example that I shared from the educational or research community. That eventually became more of a consumer-based product where you could lip sync or kind of puppeteer another video of somebody else saying something. They were able to control the image according to their own expression, so it was very realistic. The video banking person actually didn't detect it. They had additional layers of controls around like wire transfers and stuff that allowed them to do some additional verification that they really, in their own words, they got lucky that they caught this. And it's kind of in the banking industry. The assumption is that this is happening a lot more than we probably even realize at this point. Moving forward, there was an incident where somebody onboarded with Dragos by taking over their personal email account. Again, not necessarily a deep fake in this story, but it was an example of where they take over someone's persona using their personal email and are able to get equipment and credentials sent out to them. By the way, I'm very passionate about NIST 863A. I can touch on this maybe later, but essentially it's a failure to do identity proofing, and they exploit that to onboard themselves as an employee that they are not, obviously. There is cases more recently where people are using like deepfake to do new hire or get themselves hired in organizations, potentially for espionage purposes or political purposes, or just to basically get more take on more jobs and get more money. There's an article here from Unit 42 at Palo Alto discusses that, and then obviously the Know Before they did a real good job marketing this last year. They actually hired a fake North Korean employee and then published all their findings from that whole procedure. It was very fascinating. Just evidence that people are using deepfake right now to some degree to like get onboarded with employee as an employee at organizations that are maybe being targeted for type of espionage type of stuff. I love this. This was during COVID. There was this awesome video on YouTube. Again, I share it in the resource link for you guys. But this person just pre-recorded themselves a meeting and for meetings for an entire week. What they did was they pre-recorded responses to generic questions for their projects and different things they had to update people on. And then they sat in the meeting and they hit play. I only share this to demonstrate that you could, in theory, join a Zoom. You could, in theory, join a Teams meeting. You can pipe a virtual camera in and pre-record video. So if you combine that with the ability to create deepfake video, you end up with stories like this, where a deepfake scammer walks off with 25 million, essentially faking being the like I think they were pretending to be the CFO, calling one of the accountants and requesting for a wire transfer. And they did this over Teams, I think, and there was some degree. It's not. I think this happened in China, so essentially, it's not sure exactly all the details. But the theory in the industry is that they probably had a form of a pre-recorded video of the CFO that they faked, that they defaked. They played that video, probably feigning technical difficulties, and then downgraded to voice and or downgraded to chat. So essentially, you would join a call, have a really grainy, messed up video. Say you're having voice problems. Say you're having video problems with your technology stack, and then just say, "Listen, I'll text you the details. I'll chat you the details," and then you send them in the meeting chat. You just send them the, "Hey, here's the wire instructions I need." We believe that's probably what happened here. I could go on for days about stories like this, but essentially, there's no shortage of situations where some degree of deepfake technology is used to extort or exploit or gain money from people. What I want to do though is kind of break it down for you into like different weaponization tactics, because I covered a lot of different things from like the start of this to right here. And we talk about the so what, let me kind of give you a framework to look at this and think through like what are the attack vectors for deepfakes today right now. One of them is advanced BEC, so that's where essentially someone like I just described, they work an accounting scam, they maybe get a wire transfer done, or they convince an employee to change a payment for something, or maybe like another common one is real estate transactions. They'll get in on a real estate deal, or they'll find out that someone's looking to close on a property. They will pretend to be the realtor, or they'll pretend to be the escrow company, and they'll convince you to change the wire instructions for your down payment. That's advanced BEC or business email compromise. And again, you don't have to have an email compromise. I hate BEC. Like the term is really confusing, but all it means is you're pretending to be somebody. Whether you actually have access to their email account doesn't necessarily matter. You could spoof that person and say, "Hey, I'm Bob, the CFO of Company Y. I need you to wire money." You may have access to Bob's email, you may not, but essentially you're faking being Bob. So deepfake can be weaponized there, obviously, in advanced BEC. Obviously, fake onboarding we covered. So, new hire onboarding, new account onboarding, third party or vendor onboarding. An area where I harp on this a lot is offshore as well for firms or companies that use offshore employees. Like onboarding is a big risk. Again, identifying or doing what we call like identity proofing is very critical because deepfake only makes fake onboarding like that much more possible or dangerous or impactful because you're going to convince people you are that person when you can start to stream video or have voice as a layer of authentication. So it's all the more important that we do identity proofing during these procedures, and we'll touch on that in a second. Tech support scam for outbound. So again, this is an instance where the help desk allegedly calls an employee and says, "I'm Bob from the help desk. I need to install some software on your computer." Um, Again, this happens today even without deepfake, but deepfake only makes it more effective if the attacker so chooses to start to implement those technologies for fake video, fake voice, so on and so forth. Spoofing employees for inbound tech support scam. Same concept, except now you're talking about an employee calling into help desk saying, "I need my password reset. I need a new MFA token," so on and so forth. So again, the more you're able to mimic, let's say, my CEO, the more likely you are to have an effective compromise there. This stuff does happen today without deepfake, but again, deepfake and the proliferation of deepfake is going to make these things even more impactful. Public and press manipulation is a big one too. Again, we talked about Zelensky. Deepfake is going to be exploited to do more press manipulation. This is more impactful for publicly traded companies, but essentially, you could use deepfake to smear people. Obviously, if you think about the extension of that, you get extortion scams. So we've seen public press manipulation around like making pornographic videos of actors or actresses that are don't typically do that to kind of shame them or make them tar their reputation. But you also see it in extortion, where maybe someone could generate such a video of you and then kind of try to extort you by saying, "I'm going to share this information with your spouse or with your family or your kids, unless you give me Bitcoin." So I provided a couple of links there of examples of these instances where that's happened. Lastly is consumer fraud. We covered that because of banking. Obviously, now because there's so much digitization of banking platforms, it's more likely for folks to use deepfake to try to get banks to transfer money, move money, to get folks to change, you know, the direction of money, and or even to take out loans and do other fraud that's financially driven or consumer fraud. To be clear, though, I think that just as a reminder, these top four are what I would call cheap fake or no fake. It's very possible to do the top four like today without any form of like technology to do deepfake. Deepfake again only broadens and deepens the impact of these things or the likelihood that they will affect your organization or your customers' organizations. But of course, I could call today and do fake onboarding. I think I could also probably call and do tech support scam outbound. It's very possible. I put the picture here of Saturday Night Live, Trump and Hillary. Uh, it doesn't take a lot to like pretend to be somebody. Like you could actually like, there's many Biden impersonators and Trump impersonators that could, in theory, call around all over the nation and pretend to be him and say vote this way. So it doesn't necessarily need deepfake technology. So what are we going to do here? I mean, now that we've kind of covered at a very, very high level and very quickly, we've covered a lot of the risks. But what next? Do we panic? Do we just freak out? Well, our government's tried to do some things, right? So let's make a law. Let's figure out how we could like use the government and the laws to limit or restrict the impact of these technologies. But it's died. The first one that they put out died in previous Congress. They've come out with another one, HR 2395, which is currently, I think, about to be debated and discussed. Because of this slowness of legislative process, we have the executive order, obviously. So Biden came out and did an executive order on the safe, secure, and trustworthy development and use of artificial intelligence. Awesome. I can kind of see why he did that with executive order because, again, legislative process is very slow. these are good things in the sense of they do require like companies that work in this space to do things like watermarking or doing authenticity of their content or tracking its provenance. So it is good to kind of move the needle. It's not the total solution. Obviously, we have gun laws and there's still gun violence, right? But it does help. um, Obviously, we got a new president, and he eliminated this executive order. So we do have legislation in progress, kind of happening behind the scenes. There's nothing right now, though. There is nothing anymore. There was the executive order, but that's gone. So it's really up to private organizations to move the needle or raise the bar, so to speak. So what can we do? Obviously, the obvious answer is training. Like we got to make ourselves aware. It's why I'm here, like sharing my thoughts and opinions and history of deepfake, because I believe that like making people aware of these things and forcing us to kind of look at the issue is key. Internally, you can train people on human detections. There's certain technologies that are still limited, so you can ask people to do things like turn your head, and you're going to see the filter. Maybe you could ask people to like lift up fingers. You could say, "Show me the number 4," and then they do that, and that's obviously going to probably expose if there's some kind of filter there. You can't do that obviously if it's pre-recorded. These are dangerous, though, I do want to say, because they kind of give you a false sense of security, and they give people a sense of comfort that they can detect it. The technology is only going to get better, and it's only going to get harder for the human to detect it. But it is something I think that we should be talking about as technology teams with our customers, with our internal employees, or whatever it is that you interface with, and let them know. Exercise caution, put in processes like wire protections, like dual control around that stuff, and train folks like, hey, the CFO will never just call you and ask you to change a wire. Follow procedures that don't depend on digital platforms. Number two is kind of enhancing or strengthening our identity and access management processes, right? These things would address advanced BEC, they would address fake onboarding, tech support scams, and spoofing employees. This is what I said earlier. It's NIST 863A. I behoove you to research this and look into it. It's the idea that we have to do identity proofing of somebody before we give them sensitive information or credentials. Example, in the old ways, you would show up at your job, there'd be an envelope on your desk, you'd open the envelope, and there's your password. You would only get in the building and through the office and into your office if you actually proved your identity. You physically like verified with somebody in HR, hey, this is the person that we just hired, welcome aboard, and then you get your password, right? In the modern world, like we don't do that. A lot of people don't onboard physically anymore. And so we've forgotten that we still need to do some form of identity proofing before we give credentials. So credential could be a password. It could also be an MFA token or a Duo enrollment or an Okta sign up or something like that. So if we strengthen the identity and access management processes and platforms, we actually probably could mitigate a majority of these risks around advanced BEC and fake onboarding, so on and so forth. Whether it's cheap fake or deep fake, we would be resilient against the most sophisticated deep fakes if we had a way to do some kind of identity proofing. So there are some platforms out there that are moving the bar here, right? So there's a startup that I personally advise for called Vercro that's looking at solutions for this. There's a company called Hyper that has a product called Hyper Affirm that's looking to do identity proofing within their identity and access management platform. And then Microsoft has Microsoft Verified ID, which is a kind of type of identity proofing as well for remote onboarding. All of these I encourage you to look into. Again, if anything, just consider strengthening your identity and access management process, or maybe putting it to the test somehow by hiring a pen testing firm to say, hey, you know what, go after my help desk, call them, pretend to be the CFO, see how far you get, see if you can get a dual enrollment token sent to your phone, see if you can get an Okta login or a new password, or so on and so forth. Next to this is emerging technologies. There are emerging technologies coming out for detecting deepfakes. A topic I really love is called GAN, or generative adversarial networks. This is just an idea of a machine learning network that generates fake images that meet a certain guideline, submit those fake images to kind of a detection system to see if it can detect it as fake. If it detects it as fake, then the kind of adversarial node will tune itself and update its model until it doesn't get detected. When it doesn't get detected, then the protective side of the relationship, or the other machine learning node, will update its model. And so in a way, I call it the seventh layer of hell, or seventh circle of hell. It's a way to get better. They use it in image generation, actually. So like create an image of a flower, And then does the detection system detect that it's an AI or machine learning generated flower? If yes, then update your model to generate a better looking flower until you don't detect that it's generated by a machine. So you end up getting better and better and better and better. You get better detections, which is great, but you're also going to get better like adversarial uses. I think this is such a cool platform, and could that this concept could be used across all kinds of systems. And then there's this deepfake detection challenge where they're challenging folks to kind of take on this sort of consider like a capture the flag for deepfake, which is moving the needle around detections. And there's this concept of post processing versus pre processing detection. Essentially, there's more movement happening around detecting deepfake, like a video as it's already being like distributed. What I would call post processing, meaning we create a fake video and I can now upload it to a tool to tell me if that video is AI generated or deepfake generated. You see a lot of that on YouTube where people will say, "I submitted this video and it's scoring a 5 out of 100 that it's a fake video." So there's a lot of that. But pre-processing is more like when you join a Teams call or a Zoom call. Like, how are you going to detect that in real time, right? Before you've actually done any kind of transaction or any kind of decision making fork in the road, how are you going to know in real time that that video is fake? I think that Microsoft has a product called VASA One. I didn't put in the slides for the sake of time, but if you look at VASA One, they're basically able to generate like full fake video off of just a headshot of your head. And it was so powerful that they decided they were not going to release this as a tool or a proof of concept. And instead, and my theory is that they're building these technologies into things like Microsoft Teams. Again, like the GAN, the better that Microsoft gets at generating deepfakes, I think that they believe they'll be able to secure against them in platforms like Teams to make Teams a more reliable platform. So conclusion, I think we're doing pretty good on time here, but essentially, I love this song. It's from my childhood. We didn't start the fire. All right, we didn't light it, but we tried to fight it. I mean, this is just the way the tech is. AI is the same thing. If you work in technology, you recognize that, you know what, you kind of take the hand that you're dealt. And in this particular generation of technology, we're being dealt deep fake AI and all kinds of problems. And we just need to try to put the fire out. So with that, here's a slide for my contact information. Feel free to scan it. It's just a QR code that goes to my contact, and reach out if you have any questions. I will distribute the PDF of this. These are two link pages of just tons of links of research. Feel free to peruse that. It should be available to download soon. We've got about 5 minutes or so. If y'all want to just ask me any questions, I flew through a lot of crap and I am not the expert by any means, but feel free. I don't know how we handle Q&A. And by the way, I do want to point out, I think the folks at Fin, there's a lot of MSSPs out there, and a lot of platforms that are starting to look at like doing pen testing around deepfakes, and again looking at how vulnerable your organizations may or may not be to those low level things like BEC or tech support scams, and implementing things like voice cloning, video cloning to just help educate those frontline workers. So anyway, yeah, questions. What do I
On
see?
a Right now, I'm keeping an eye on the chat. I'm not seeing anything right now. I see it. Dennis shouted you out your content. I mean, overall, it was a really good session, John. Question I'd have for you is if you're an MSP and you're just trying to dive into, I don't know what you would call like deepfake management, like we're trying to prevent a lot of this. It's like it can be overwhelming. Like the changes that we're seeing in cybersecurity. How do you keep up with all? Like deepfake is one of many vulnerabilities that are coming out with the advent and rapid changes of technology. So where should like an MSP start? How do you get started with this?
Yeah, I think understanding the threats is really key, and then doing like a proper risk assessment of your clients. I believe that one of the biggest for us on the customer side, because obviously I run infrastructure and technology for a large asset manager in LA. one of the concerns that we have is our third parties. Like if we were to use like an MSP for support, like our concern is, hey, like what would happen if someone called the MSP pretending to be one of our employees? How would we be assured that they would detect that and catch that? So I think the first thing is making sure your own house is in order and that your support teams are equipped to both understand the risk and then have some processes in place, or at least procedures to validate or verify people. Beyond that is just educating your customers as well. And if you have updated processes, making sure you understand how to communicate that clearly to them, that these are real risks that are being thrown at us every day. I don't know if that helps, but um, obviously participating in things like this is really helpful, and working with like the community to learn what's out there and just talking and sharing. And again, the more we could share, I think the stronger we get as an organization or just industry. um,
Yeah.
does that help?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. I see Steven dropped a note on, like, crazy stuff is being done with AI video creation as well. What are your thoughts around not only deepfakes on images and some of the stuff that you shared today, but about the complexity that video is starting to take as well for deepfakes?
Yeah, like it's just, I almost put in here um a video of me that was deep faked. I think that so the AI piece, I didn't get into this on the talk, but the AI piece is a whole different thing. Like deepfake really is machine learning. Like at the end of the day, when you talk about deepfake, you're talking about machine learning technologies. So AI and ML are kind of two separate concepts. Like AI, when we talk about AI today, it's really large language model. It's like interfacing with computers using natural language. That's why the software development industry is getting rocked, because people don't need to understand like coding. They can actually kind of build stuff using natural language. So what AI has done is allowed people a front end. It's just another tool to say, hey, create a video. Here's my character. Here's the picture of the person I want you to do a video of, and I want them to say this. Now that only is going to proliferate the technology to even more like what I call really dumb script kiddies, like 13-year-old boys who don't know any better and have nothing better to do. Um, yeah, yeah, exactly. Dennis mentioned about Will Smith eating spaghetti. It's harmless most of the time until it's not. One of the areas I actually have a lot of interest in is wealth managers, right? I have a lot of friends in wealth management. It's like, how do you know that your client is the one that's calling you, asking you to move that money from investment A to investment B, right? And they have a big, big challenge there too. So, yeah,
Thanks, John.
And this has been awesome. Jamie, thank you to the Fin crew for sponsoring this. Y'all make sure to go check out Fin Security. Thank you guys for spending time. John, you and I have known each other for like, I feel like probably a decade now,
at least.
maybe longer. And it's really cool to have someone like you kind of, I know you're not like me saying this, but grace our presence and just give us some of your thoughts. So those of you who don't know, John is not an MSP. He and I knew each other in our banking days. Does some really cool stuff. So John, you didn't have to do this. Appreciate you coming in, and it's been an awesome session. So it's been really, really, really solid. To the audience, we have a 15-minute break. And what I would love for you to do is go check out our vendor sponsors. Rejection Con does not happen without them. And so the best thing that you can do, and I mean this, is go say hi to them and just say, hey, thank you for sponsoring. The way you can do that is up at the very top. You can hit the back button, kind of top left of the screen. That'll take you out of this session. And then that'll let you walk over into the booths and go find them, say hi to them, go chat. John Lockie, brother, thank you so much. This is incredible. Jamie, my friend, thank you. This was awesome. We'll end the session and we'll go hit some booth time. Thanks so much, y'all.
Awesome. Later.